Alright, welcome back. It is December 1st and last month of 2022, and we're going to get into again this fantastic analysis video from Dealey Plaza UK Canterbury Conference with Brian Edwards. And in case you didn't see my other videos, he is a former policeman, and he's giving a tactical breakdown of how a assassination team would set up an assassination of John F. Kennedy. And I've never seen anyone else do this before. I don't understand why it hadn't been done before, but it makes perfect sense. And when you have former military people and former policemen look at a crime scene, which is what this is, and analyze it from a tactical point of view, all these things that are out there that most people wouldn't pick up on make a lot of sense. Alright, so we'll go back into it again, and we're left off right here.
Here's behind the picket fence. Elm Street is out of view on this side. Here's where a shooter probably was. This is the view that that shooter might have had, standing on a car bumper or something up above the fence.
And look at that. That is an awesome view. I mean, think about that. You're well concealed. Okay, you've got cover from the fence, cover from the trees, so you're pretty well concealed there. But look, you can see all the way up to Houston and Elm. The Simmons Freeway sign used to be here. Umbrella Man would have been here, and your little Cuban radio guy would have been about right here. Well, maybe right here. There's the last kill shot right there. You got a really defined kill zone area. It's blocked off. There's no distractions. There's no traffic you're looking at. It's just your little kill box right here. Makes perfect sense. You got Umbrella Man here. He's above the wall, pumping the umbrella. That's signaling you that he's passed. The car is just about to pass the Simmons Freeway sign. And then you've got your other guy here to let you know you can fire. I mean, it's a perfect kill zone. And then you can fire. Actually, you can fire over here, hit him in the neck. Fire over here, hit Connolly. And then fire right here for the headshot. Perfect area. Perfect. The only problem I have with the picket fence shooter, and this is why I'd say they had to have been using some kind of silencer, because right here you can see there's some steps. Well, just like 5 feet down this way are 2 to 3 men standing there. And in the video, especially the video pointing this way, not the Zapruder video, but in the video that's pointing this way, the men don't react. Okay, now either they're part of the screening team and they know it's coming, or they're using silencers and they're not hearing anything. But you do see one guy kind of jump up, lift his shoulders when Kennedy's head's blown off. And then these guys disappear. But I don't think they're ever interviewed. I don't think... I'm still looking. I think some people have identified them, but I don't see any statements, or haven't found any statements. If anybody knows of any, please let me know, from these 2 or 3 guys that are at the bottom of the stairs. They're the closest, besides Zapruder, they're the closest to the shooters here, okay, behind the picket fence. But nobody has interviewed them. If I was the FBI, I'd be trying to find out, who are these guys? You're the, not only, well, even if you didn't believe in the picket fence shooter, they're the closest, some of the closest to Kennedy when Kennedy gets his head blown off. Anyway, we'll keep going.
There's your firing zone right there. So we got a shooter in that box. We already know that the shot hit him in the head. His body flew back to the left. Here's the Mormon photograph. That shooter. This is the view that that shooter might have had.
Let's go back just a second.
Bumper or something up above the fence. There's your firing zone right there. So we got a shooter in that box.
All right, so this is a good picture here, because This is what Ed Hoffman is saying he saw, but back even further. He was across on the other side. If this is the railroad bridge, he was on the other side of the railroad bridge, say down here, and he said that he saw, of course there's all cars in here, he saw two men, one man in a police uniform, one man in a construction uniform, and this man was firing from, the policeman was firing from here. He ran over and handed the rifle to the man in the construction uniform. That man went over, had a toolbox, dismantled the rifle, okay, and put it in the toolbox, and then put the toolbox in a white, I don't know, tower, whatever you call it, control box here, which is right out of sight here. The only problem I have with Ed Hoffman, is it Ed Hoffman, the deaf mute, is that even with the cars, that the guy, Lee Bowers, in the control tower over here, who's obviously watching this area to see, see Kennedy, would see all this. He'd see the man running with the rifle, okay? That's why I don't buy it. I think the rifle was put into a back of one of these cars. Maybe the trunk was open. They were sitting on the bumper. So I don't buy, I get all the names mixed up. Ed Hoffman, the deaf mute, I don't buy his story. Okay? Doesn't make any sense. And he wouldn't be able to see what he saw. And also that control box is right here. There are people just 15, 20 feet away standing on the bridge right here. They would have saw this construction guy putting that metal toolbox with the rifle in it in this control box, or whatever this white tower thing is here. So it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, keep going.
We've already known that the shot hitting in the head, his body flew back to the left. There's the Mormon photograph. That shooter is probably right in here somewhere.
So there you go. There's the reverse view. And you see there's the three guys on the steps. They're, okay, maybe 10 feet away, 15 feet away from this shooter position right here. Okay, there's Zapruder over here. Well, actually, you can see Zapruder right there with his secretary behind him. And so this shot, and these people here, the Newmans, I believe, have already dove, because the shot was coming down, the shot was coming down, the shot was coming down, like that. So you got 1, 2, 3. And there had to have been a shooter here. I mean, I don't care what the Warren Commission says. There had to have been a shooter there, because this policeman turns this way and gets blood and brain matter from the president's head being blown off, sprayed back onto him on this side of the helmet. Mrs. Kennedy jumps onto the back of the limousine trunk and is grabbing for pieces of the president's skull and scalp and brain matter. She's in shock. Okay, she's thinking that, I can put it back together and make him whole again. But she's in shock and terror, and that's why she jumps onto the back of the limousine trunk, grabbing for the president's brain, because she knows what happened. She knows the president got shot from the front right, and his brains got blown out the back of his head. If the president got shot from the rear, from the school book depository, his brains would be splattered from his forehead into the limousine. There'd be no need for her to jump on the back of the limousine, because the brain matter would be inside, be splattered all over Governor Connolly and inside the seat, and inside the limousine. But she jumps. It's just another indication that the shot did not come from the third floor. It came from the picket fence. And how the Warren Commission can completely ignore that. I mean, because we're going to go over testimony of doctors saying there was a big hole in the back of the president's head. You don't get a big hole in the back of the president's head unless he's shot from the front. Okay? Mrs. Kennedy jumps on the trunk to grab the remains of her husband's brains blown through the back of his head onto the trunk. You don't do that if the shot's coming from the rear. This policeman gets brain matter splattered onto him and his face. Okay? This one doesn't. Only this one. And that's because the shot hits here and blows, when the shot is fired, it hits here, blows the brain matter this way, and the policeman rides into the trail of brain matter that's being, thrusted to the left and the rear. I mean, that's the only way these things can happen. A shot came from up here somewhere. Now, who these three men are, I don't know. I'm sure somebody has identified them. I believe there's on my map that I'm going to go over of the witnesses that they've been identified. But has anyone taken their statement? I haven't found it. If anyone has a statement from these guys, I sure would like to know it. Because these are the closest. See, Zapruder's over here. The Newmans are over here. These are the closest to the picket fence corner. This is why I think, you see how they're just standing there? This guy has his arms crossed. They're either involved or they're using silencers there. They can't hear it. So something's not right with that. And then these men, when you see the photos of the people running and the police running, see here, I'll show you. Hold on one second. Alright. So this is seconds after the shot. The police are running towards the grassy knoll. These men are gone. Maybe they're here, but they also disappear. I mean, where are the policemen, grabbing these guys? What did you hear? Where's the direction? I mean, within this photo, you can see these shadows right here. The shooters are probably still there. They've closed the trunk. One's pulled out, another one has pulled out his Secret Service badge. And maybe this guy or this guy runs up here and is confronted by him. It's very strange. Very, very strange. But if you see there, let's see, hold on a second. You see how the men are right here on this little level spot. And in here, there's the level spot. Maybe they've moved back and sat down. Very strange. Alright, so we'll keep going.
And this would have been what they may have seen. That's just part of from the JFK movie. Somebody goes, hey, you got a picture of the shooter. No, that's not the shooter. That's from a movie.
Wow, that'd be great.
Sam Hall. They go, hey, Edward solved it. We found a shooter. This is a picture from Rush to Judgment, where Mark Lane interviewed Sam Hall, and he said when the shots were fired and after it was over with, he says we ran to this area. That's the same area that we're talking about. J.C. Price was sitting on top of the Terminal Annex, the post office, and he said he saw somebody running away from the fence from that area.
There's two more.
Lee Bowers. This is, some of you may have never seen this before. I got access to the railroad tower.
You see? Ed Hoffman's story, the deaf mute, doesn't make any sense because he says that the policeman ran this way, handed off the rifle to the guy in the construction hat. The guy in the construction hat went down here. He broke down the rifle, put it into a toolbox, and then put the toolbox in this white little box, control box here. Now that doesn't make any sense because look at the distance there. You're right out in the open. Lee Bowers is going to see all that action, cars and no cars. So something's not right about Ed Hoffman's story.
A couple years ago, and for about 30 seconds took as many pictures as I could. This is Lee Bowers' view from the top of the tower, and you can see that entire length of that fence. Well, at the time of the assassination, there were cars in here all jumbled around and parked in anywhere they wanted. They didn't have lanes like they do today. But anyway, Lee Bauer says he saw two men standing in this area, close to where Gene Hill, the Newmans, Charles Brent, all those people have already said they corroborated what each other have been talking about. So the next one is a little bit further down the fence. Beverly Oliver says that she said that she looked up and she saw somebody firing from that three truck.
There they are again. Hold on.
Where Gene Hill, the Newmans, Charles Brent, all those people have already said they corroborated what each other have been talking about. So the next one is a little bit further down the fence. Beverly Oliver says that she said that.
And there these three men are again. You see? So what happened to these three men? Who are these three men? See, this is right when Kennedy gets shot. You can see. You see the brain matter starting to go up in the air. There's Beverly Oliver, Gene Hill. There's that guy with his boy. But where are these three men? Okay, because if the shots are coming down literally right beside them, they had to have been silenced. Okay? But again, like I said, even with the silencer, you're going to hear something. You're going to hear a muffled air compression, because even though it muffles the sound, the bullet passes through the air, and that makes a sound. The friction of the bullet traveling through the air is going to make a sound. So where are these three guys? I'm going to find these three guys, because these three men were either involved, or they knew something, or they heard something. But it's like they just disappear, because the other photos I've gone over, there's nobody here. It's like they're there when Kennedy's shot, and then they just disappear. Did they run up this way? Did they run that way? Where are the policemen grabbing them and interviewing? Did you hear the shot? Where did they come from? Oh, over there behind me. They just disappear.
She looked up and she saw somebody firing from that three-trunk tree on the grassy knoll. The east end of the fence is down out of the picture to the right. This is almost in the middle of that fence. Ed Hoffman, my dear friend Ed Hoffman, said the man I saw was wearing a dark suit and a dark hat, and he was aiming a rifle over the fence, and I saw a puff of smoke, and I thought it was from a cigarette. When I turned around, I could see the rifle. Ed was talking about this area right in here.
You see, he's the deaf mute. I believe he's the deaf mute. But look at this. Here's cars. There's no way men could run from there to there and there to there. And see, that box is right out in the open. There are people standing right there. There's no way the construction guy could just walk over, break down the rifle, and put it into this box without all these. There's like 10 guys here standing on the overpass. There's no way none of them saw him. But only Ed Hoffman, standing over here, saw this guy. I don't believe Ed Hoffman at all. Okay, it's just impossible, because you have to look at all the evidence of all the other people. I don't believe Ed Hoffman saw this guy. I don't believe Gordon Arnold was standing right there. I don't believe it. It's just impossible. Okay? Now, there is the possibility of two shooter teams. You could have one here, because Zapruder heard something coming over his ear, or past him, or from behind him, and then have another team here. So you have one team firing up, and then one team would be shooting this way, in case the president got away.
Not the west end of the fence, but Ed was talking about down further. So now we've got people saying that there was a shooter further down the fence. Well, what does that mean? Well,
two teams.
Again, this is not the shooter. This is me for the cover of our book. But that's where Ed said the shooter was. And no, I was only 9 years old. It wasn't me. So. All right, so we're talking about a shooter in this area behind the fence, and down here. Well, that's certainly plausible. Why not have backup to a backup?
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see, hold on.
For a book, but that's where Ed said the shooter was. And no, I was only 9 years old. It wasn't me. So. All right, so we're talking about a shooter.
So that makes perfect sense. So you could have two guys here that Gordon Arnold is seeing. And then you have another team either behind this tree or behind over here. Makes perfect sense. I would have put them right here. But in case these guys miss, see, they got this big tree right here blocking them. It's going to be hard to switch over and fire this way. You got another backup team. Backup for the backup. So the grassy knoll is the backup. Okay? And this is the backup for the backup. Makes perfect sense.
Shooter in this area, behind the fence, and down here. Well, that's certainly plausible. Why not have backup to a backup?
Oh, wow.
So if we got, is it possible there were two shooters on the fence line? Absolutely, absolutely. The more you have, the better your chances of success. Malcolm Kilduff, the assistant press secretary, tells the press at the Parkland Hospital, bullet hit him right in the head. Well, if the shooter was from behind, wouldn't you say the bullet hit him in the back of the head? No, I think he's talking about the right side of the head. And finally, the knoll on the south. This is your view you would have had. Not a great spot. I mean, it's good concealment, but it's not good cover. And as the car, I think I have a picture of it, the car coming down the street, as the car gets more of an angle, your target is out of view. I mean, Jackie and Governor and Mrs. Connolly will be blocking your view. So if you're going to shoot from this position, you want to make sure it's in the car, as the target is in here, so it's a straight line shot. But now you got to shoot over the windshield. I think this was a bad place. I think this was a good observational place, a good fire control location. But as far as a shooter, I would put it well low on the primary. I'd put it like second to backup, maybe. And then finally, I think one of the best ones in front of the car were on the top of the bridge. And I know people are going to say, well, people on the bridge would have seen him. Well,
yep.
Not necessarily. If your witnesses are all over here, they're not paying attention to what's going on down here.
And again, you see, he just pointed, all these witnesses are right here. That little white control box that Ed Hoffman says the construction guy with the construction helmet comes over and breaks down the rifle, puts it into the toolbox, and then puts the toolbox in this box here. Look, I mean, we're talking 10 feet. There are 5, 10 people here. It's impossible. That's why I don't buy Ed Hoffman's story. Okay? I just don't buy it.
Hidden, and David Knight's going to cover this in his presentation. David Knight.
Another thing about Ed Hoffman's story that logically doesn't make any sense is, okay, so he said he had to drive his car down and then come back, and then when he got there were just tons of people running around. Well, okay, you've told people and no one's understanding you or no one believing you. Well, don't you think you go over to this this white control box and break it open and find the rifle there and then wave to the police and say, hey, look what I found, or grab a policeman and drag him over to, or another civilian over to this control box where he said the rifle was put? I mean, if there are people all in this parking lot and policemen everywhere, the assassins don't have time to come back. And I'm taking this within 10 to 15 minutes of the assassination. The assassins don't have time to come back after they place the rifle in the control box, come back and get the rifle again and take it out in front of everybody. So the rifle, if Ed Hoffman's story is correct, is still there when everyone's running around the parking lot, when he's running around trying to get someone to listen to his story. So that's another reason I don't buy what he's saying. Because if it was me, I would have gone over to that control box. I would have pulled someone over there with me, banged on that control box and opened it up and found that rifle. He didn't do it. He tried to tell people, but no one believed him. Who cares? You can go over to the control box yourself and start smashing on it, and then you're going to attract people's attention, and they're going to see when you open that up there's a rifle in there, right? Right? That's just logic sense. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of these stories, you don't really need a lot of evidence to disclaim them or disprove them. You just think about it logically. Okay? Use your common God-given sense that God gave you, and it doesn't make any sense. Okay? Now, I could be completely wrong. Ed Hoffman could have saw those guys, and no one, or maybe he didn't think to go to the box, but that's the first thing most logical adults would have done, is gone to the box. Well, hey, no one's listening to me. I'm going to go over to this damn box and find the damn rifle. But he didn't do that. He didn't mention that. I haven't seen anything saying that. Doesn't make any sense. He could have gone there days after and brought the FBI and the sheriff and the police and found the damn rifle. But they'll never do it. As far as we know, that damn rifle's still there. Right? Anyway, again, that's why I don't buy Ed Hoffman's story. I don't buy Gordon Arnold's story. There's just some things that you have no corroboration on, and you can throw them out. They don't make any sense. It's not part of what happened.
I went to Dallas last year, and we specifically went to that location to see if I stood here where Holland and all those witnesses were, can I see anybody over here? Well, the bridge, the concrete kind of, it's in a bowl shape, and you won't necessarily see anybody, but if you did, well, the person could say, I'm part of security. Well, okay, how would they not know that guy is part of the security team? So this is a book depository.
Again, I discount this because, I mean, Teague and a bunch of other people are standing right here. They're going to hear someone shooting from right above them. Maybe they dropped a bullet. Maybe one of the shooters dropped a bullet onto Teague. I don't know. I don't buy that one either. Because you're way exposed in the open. There's no way to escape. There's 5 or 10 people standing just feet away. Okay? Anyway, you're too exposed to it's too open. Besides, Ed Hoffman is standing right there, according to him. Ed Hoffman's saying he's right here. Okay? Because Ed Hoffman said he was right here. He heard the shooting. Okay. The Kennedy's car went by and he saw a big hole in the back of Kennedy's head. Well, first of all, there's another reason why Ed Hoffman's lying. It's because the Secret Service agent Clint Hill is lying on top of the president. Okay? So how is he going to see a big hole, especially the car flying by at 45, 50 miles an hour? So Ed Hoffman is full of shit. Okay? And besides, Ed Hoffman would have saw a shooter over here. But Ed Hoffman's standing right there. He's looking across, and he sees the shooters, and he sees them run, hand off the weapon. The other guy in the construction hat breaks down the weapon, puts it in a toolbox, takes the toolbox and puts it in a control box, the white control box right there. Ed Hoffman says he's right here. Again, there's another reason. Gordon Arnold didn't see anyone running that way. Okay? All these witnesses right here would have saw the guy in the construction hat putting it in the white box, which is just feet away from them. Okay? Ed Hoffman, there's no way Ed Hoffman could have seen the back of the president's head when Clint Hill is lying on top of him and the car is flying by at 50 miles an hour. Impossible. So, Ed Hoffman, I'm taking you and putting you in the most unlikely gray file. Okay? There's certain witnesses that you have to prioritize to believe their story. Were they there? Are there other people corroborating what they said? Is there film and documentation of what they said that shows that they were there? those are the highest priority ones there. You know, Bill Newman and Brin and Gene Hill. They were all in the photos, right in front of the president. They all said they heard shots coming from up here. All of them. They don't know each other. They didn't all get together the night before and go, or the morning of, and go get coffee and say, okay, now we're all going to say when the president goes by and he gets shot that we saw the shots coming from there. They didn't know each other, okay? But they all corroborated the same story. That's how you find truth, is when you have people that don't know each other, are not connected, and they all corroborate independently the same story. And then you have photo and video documentation to back that up. There's no one that saw Ed Hoffman. Nobody. Okay? There's video of people right down at the bottom of the hill here videoing the president's car flying by Chief Curry's car. But did Ed Hoffman run down and tell those people? No. And again, how does Ed Hoffman get here? He said he drove around and then parked his car here. Well, you'd have to drive down this way and park your car over here. Doesn't make much sense. Unless he's over on the Simmons Freeway. Unless he's parked up over there, then he's even further away. And then there's all these trees too. Anyway, we'll keep going. Oh, actually, no. We're finished with the video part. We're going to get back into Buell Wesley Frazier's testimony. Let's see, we're at 52:31, and we'll pick that up, and that'll probably be, tomorrow will be the last of this video. This is a great video. I just disagree with him on having a shooter over here, because again, all these people would have saw this guy. There's no way to run or escape, evade without being seen. And nobody reported gunshots coming from the right from here. They all reported puffs of smoke and gunshots coming from the grassy knoll. Alright. Okay, we'll get back into Buell Wesley Frazier's testimony. Alright. So Buell Wesley Frazier, he's going over how he's standing, in the doorway. He says, right down in front of me at the bottom of the steps, my foreman Bill Shelley and Billy Lovelady were standing there. Now let's take a look at that. Okay? So, let's see. Alright. So there is Billy Lovelady. So Wesley Frazier is right behind him, is what he's saying. Now they ask him, what, if anything, happened then unusual that you can recall? Just after they made the turn, there were several policemen leading the motorcade, and right after they turned, after the car made the turn, it sounded like the motorcycles were backfiring. So he's hearing the shots as soon as they turn on to Elm. What was the response to the first noise? That it was a motorcycle backfire? Yes, sir. Did you hear any other noise? Shortly after, there were two more in rapid succession. So, boom, boom. Those are impossible shots from that Oswald rifle, because Oswald rifle would be boom, click, 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 boom, click, 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 as he's cycling, as he's cycling the rifle. That's going to be like that. It's not going to be boom, boom. What was your response to those noises? By the time people were running and screaming and falling down, people were shouting, someone is shooting. Have you ever gone hunting, Mr. Frazier? Yes, sir, I have. Did you recognize any of the noises as rifle shots? Well, the two that came in fast succession by that time, like I said, people were hollering and I recognized them. They were rifle shots. Approximately how much time elapsed from the first noise you heard until you heard the second noise? It was just a few seconds. How much time elapsed from the time you heard the second noise until you heard the third noise? When I heard the second noise, the third was followed nearly just right back to back. It was fired in rapid succession. So, again, it's almost impossible to fire that Manilichter Carcano rifle in rapid succession. It's always boom, click, 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 boom, click, 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 boom. As you're pulling the bolt back and then pushing it forward and locking it, then you've got to aim. Okay? It could be that the person up on the third floor was just firing in the general direction of Kennedy without aiming, just to cause the noise, to cover the shots from the other shooters, and to get people to look up at the window. That would be a good distraction. Can you demonstrate by perhaps hitting your hand like this as the succession of shots, the noises you heard? You mean all three shots? Right. Okay. Demonstrating by clapping his hands. Of course, we can't hear that. Mr. Frazier, did you make any determination at the time of the noises that you've just reported as to what location they came from? They appeared to me to come from down towards the triple underpass. Not above him. Not above him to the left, which is where the 6th floor window would be, from where he's at. But from the triple underpass. See, he's here. There's the doorway. The 3rd floor window is going to be up above there. Hold on one second. You see, if he's standing in the doorway here, the 6th floor window is going to be right there. He's saying he's hearing it come down here from the shot. The noises are coming from here. If he's shooting from there, you're going to hear, even down here, you're going to hear the shot coming from up there, and the sound may bounce off, and then you'll hear it come back again. Boom. So boom, 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 boom. Because the sound wave will go boom. You'll hear that. Bounce, boom, 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 boom. Like that. Alright. Let's see what else we have here. Now notice this. He said, where did you go after the noise, if anywhere? I didn't go anywhere. I just stayed right where I was. Did you ever see Leo Harvey Oswald during the time that you were in the front of the Texas School Book Depository steps? No, sir, I did not. So, notice the difference between his testimony in the Shaw trial in 1969 and his testimony before the Warren Commission 5 years earlier in 1964. In 1964, he's always saying, well, I didn't really pay much attention, I didn't really notice, but then he tells you everything that he saw. In this one, he's saying yes and no, and yes and no. Okay? And also, you would think that a guy that you ride home with, okay, or you drive home with once a week and talk about the weather and babies, that the president just got shot, you would look around to see who's there and say, oh man, Lee, did you just see that? The president just got shot. And he didn't see Lee at all. See, now, there are some people that try to say that because of process of elimination, that there's a figure that looks like he's praying in the school book depository doorway, and they've gone through and eliminated everyone else that's an employee there, and they say that's got to be Oswald. Okay? And I don't buy that it's Oswald, because don't you think that Billy Lovelady, Wesley Frazier, Bill Shelley, Oswald's boss, would testify and say, yeah, it couldn't have been Oswald shooting in that 6th floor because Oswald was standing right behind me. Don't you think they all would have said that? At least one of them. Okay? But nobody does. And let me show you a picture here. Alright, so we'll go back here. Now, there's two people here. They're taking up almost half of the doorway. Just two people. Okay? So you can probably figure there's maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 more people standing across in that doorway. Okay? Now let's take a look at this picture. This is from the Warren Commission's book. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So maybe there's 5 people there. There's a glass partition there. So maybe 3 people back. So at the most, you're going to have 15 people in that area right there. At the most. Okay? And maybe only the front row is going to be able to see anything. So see, you got Billy Lovelady, you got Frazier, you got Bill Shelley, there's another woman, a few other people. That's at least 5 right there on the front row. Okay? They're trying to say prayer man is over here. So there's just not that enough space there. Here's the opposite view. You see? There's really not much space there, right there. Maybe 2 feet, 3 feet. And then you got the glass doorway. So there's really not enough space for not even 15 people to be standing. And so if Billy Lovelady is standing here and Bill Frazier is standing here, he's probably up against the glass. Okay? Or at least at the front of this step. Because the rest are all steps. If Oswald was right here, don't you think he would see him? Bill Shelley is right there. Billy Lovelady's there. Don't you all think that they would see Oswald? They would know Oswald was there, and not one of them reports Oswald there. Is Oswald standing inside here, looking out through the glass? There's really not even much room in this lobby, because here's the opposite view. See, the way you can tell this is, see, that sign is right there. The directory sign. There's the directory sign. There's the steps. This goes into the first floor. These steps are the ones that the patrolman ran up to the second floor, and went to the break room where Oswald was at. Okay? These are not the same steps that, you know, they say Oswald went down from the 6th floor, because that's over to the left side, northwest side of the building. This is the southeast side. These steps only go from 1st to 2nd floor. And then you have to go through this long corridor. Let me show you. Hold on 1 second. Alright, here's the 1st floor. Okay? So, there's the steps. There's the glass partition door. There's a door here that goes into the warehouse. These are offices. Here's those steps going up to the 2nd floor. There's other steps back here coming down from, you would come down from the 6th floor, 7th floor, right here. There's no other steps. Here's the 2nd floor. So the patrolman would have come up, gone up the 1st floor, gone up these steps, gone down this corridor, down to this way, and then confronted Oswald right here in the lunchroom. There's the Coke machine. There's the lunchroom. There's the steps coming from the 6th floor. Another curious question is, if Oswald is here, the policeman has already confronted him here. Okay? If Oswald was guilty and he shot the president, why would Oswald go all the way back down here, past other people coming in, go back down, go down to the 1st floor, go out the 1st floor front door? He stopped by either a news reporter or I believe it was either not Secret Service, but FBI or some kind of detective that flashed him a badge of credentials saying, hey, I'm a sheriff's deputy, I'm a police detective, where's the closest telephone? And then Oswald points back into, oh, it's up there in the office. If you just shot the President of the United States, why would you risk getting caught when you can easily from the second floor, now that you've faked out that policeman, you can easily walk from the break room over to the steps, go down the steps, go out the dock door, back onto the dock, walk over to Houston, and walk up another street hidden away from anyone else, and catch a taxi and go home. Does it sound like someone who just killed the president walking out the front door? Who commits a crime and then walks past the police? Nobody. Did Oswald walk down, walk to the steps and announce, yes, I shot the president, come and arrest me? No, he doesn't. He just walks out, because once he's confronted by the policeman, he realized something happened. Whether he's an informant or something else, he's realized something has happened. This is why I don't think Oswald is completely innocent. Whether he's involved in the assassination or he's involved as an informant, he realizes something went wrong. Okay? Because everyone else is outside. He's one of the few inside. As he's making his way back down this way, people are saying, oh, the president got shot, and people are out in the street, and no one's coming back, no one's coming back to work. He realizes that. But he also realizes that, oh shit, something happened. They didn't take my warning seriously. Now I've got to go find out what happened. And then he walks out the front door, walks 10 blocks up Elm to Eckhart, and catches a bus there. He can easily walk over to Main. Here, let me show you. And catch a bus on Main. See, here's Main. The traffic's back on Main now. Or over here. He could easily walk to one of these streets and catch a bus back home. But what does he do? He walks 10 blocks up to Eckhart, which is 1 block away from Ruby's, it's 1 block away from Ruby's club, the Carousel Club. Also, it's 1 block away from the Adolphus Hotel, which is probably where they had one of the radio control rooms. It's also 1 block away from the police. So, what kind of assassin tries to escape? He's desperate enough to shoot a policeman and then try to shoot another one, but he walks towards the police to escape. 9-10 blocks, when he can easily walk over 1 or 2 blocks and catch a bus or catch a cab and go home. Doesn't make much sense for an assassin, huh? Anyway, we'll keep going. Did you see any police there? At the Triple Underpass, yes. There was some, like, regular police at the time. When I said previously people were running and screaming and hollering, some were running in that direction towards the president's motorcade was. Now, I don't know about you, but Wesley Frazier's got pretty goddamn good vision, because he can see from the steps. He says, oh no, I never left the steps. Okay. He says he's seen from the steps through these trees, through this tree, and can see policemen way down here. The reality is that Wesley Frazier went walking along down here. This is what he says later in other testimony. But here he's saying, oh no, I'm just stood there, I didn't do anything. Where did you go when you went back into the building? I went back in and stayed there and talked to some people who worked there in the building. We talked in there. I did not eat my lunch. Several of us had not eaten our lunch, and I went back and got my lunch and ate my lunch. So the president just got shot, but while the building's being swarmed by policemen, somehow he's able to go back in and eat his lunch. And the policemen are not saying, hey, you need to get out of this damn building. This is now a police crime scene. but they allow him to eat his lunch, or at least he says that's what he did. I usually eat my lunch in the basement where I hang up my coat. I sat down like I usually did and ate at my lunch. Crazy. Okay, now it's they've asked him to come back the next morning to the Shaw trial, and he's being cross-examined by Shaw's attorney, Mr. Demon. What's interesting is that, unlike what's presented in the movie, and unlike what Garrison says in public, in the trial, they try to paint Shaw as the trainer of Oswald that sets him up to be the assassin. So they don't say in the Garrison trial that Oswald is innocent, or the Shaw trial that Oswald's innocent, and they don't say that Shaw assassinated the president. They said that Shaw and Ferry and all the other guys, Bannister, trained Oswald to assassinate the president, and that Oswald carried out the assassination, which is not exactly what Garrison actually believed. One thing I don't understand about Garrison is why I understand Ferry's dead, Bannister's dead, Shaw's the only one that's around. Okay? So Shaw's the only one they can connect to Oswald. But it's pretty obvious when you look at Shaw that he's just a CIA asset that's sheep dipping, mainly with Bannister. But Shaw is helping the Cubans, financing, helping them getting trained. He's a contact with the CIA for those groups with Bannister. Bannister's rabidly anti-communist. They're using Oswald like they did to ferret out, any communists in the New Orleans area. That's why he's, they're giving, hey, Lee, go pass out these flyers today. Lee even tells that Dean Andrews' attorney, when Dean Andrews sees him passing out the flyers, Dean Andrews says, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Well, hey, I'm passing out these flyers, and they're paying me $20 or $25 for the day. They are paying me $25 for the day to pass out these flyers." And no one ever asks, how is this broke, unemployed man able to go down to the unemployment office and hire 3 guys to come to pay them to pass out flyers? No one ever asked that. The Warren Commission didn't even get into that. I don't even think they even interviewed the people that were passing out the flyers with Oswald. We'll find out, though. And no, it wasn't Ted Cruz's dad. Anyway, but that's the case there. The thing I don't understand about Garrison is he knows about the Cubans. He knows about, Patrick Hemming. He knows about the no-name key guys. No-name key's been broken up and they've moved up to north of Lake Pontchartrain. He knows about that group of mercenaries. Okay, these CIA assets that, and see, here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand is that you've got, the way the CIA works is you've got trained CIA agents. Okay, but a lot of these guys don't run or go into danger or run missions. All they do is they're the CIA contact. They set up groups of people like these Cubans. They hire American mercenaries and former military people to train the Cubans, and then they send them off as fodder. They're not going to risk them, themselves or their lives to go get killed by Castro. Okay, so a lot of it's off the books, off the shelves. You got a lot of crazy people. Matter of fact, it's essential to hire people with criminal records, mental illness, but as long as they have the skills, because you can always disavow people like that. Oh, those people are mentally ill. Oh, those guys are just criminals. They're just making up that story. You can easily disavow people like that. I'm a straight up CIA, FBI agent. I wouldn't have anything to do with people like that. Okay? But the problem I have with Garrison is he should have gone after the people that Bannister was training. Okay? The white mercenaries, the white right-wing neo-Nazis. those are the guys that killed Kennedy. Okay? Those are the guys that were there. But he skips them and jumps to just the paymaster, the guy that's providing the funding from the CIA, because the CIA can't go and hand these guys a check. He wouldn't trust them to hand him a check. So they're giving the money to Bannister, okay, they're giving the money to Shaw. Shaw's giving the money to Bannister, and then they're buying weapons and paying the guys for housing and training and food and stuff like that. So it's all off the books, okay? But Garrison doesn't expand it from that. I don't understand why. Maybe he didn't have enough. Maybe he was afraid other people would die. I'm not sure. But that was his premise, is that Shaw and Bannister and Ferry trained Oswald to use the rifle that assassinated Kennedy. They tried to make it as simple as possible for the jury. And, of course, the jury couldn't see, well, Shaw's not pulling the trigger. And it's very murky that Shaw was connected to Oswald. So there, boom. You know, they found him innocent. Anyway, keep going. And I love this, that Shaw's lawyer actually proves the case, or gives hints to the case, that Oswald was working for a skilled, disciplined soldier to the day he died. Okay, an informant working for the government, because he asked him, you know, have you ever looked at him, Oswald, and thought to yourself, gee, this guy needs a shave? No, not that I remember. And how many times did Oswald work in a t-shirt? Is that correct? And let's see. Did he not, you did not want to tear up or soil good clothes around that job. Is that correct? Did you ever see Oswald work with dirty clothes on? No, sir. Not that I can remember. His general appearance now, would you say? His hair up. So what he's saying is that Oswald was well kept, well disciplined. He shaved every day. He kept his clothes pressed and clean. Oswald was a soldier. Okay. There's another good indication that he's not some rabid revolutionary. You know, think about it. Che Guevara and Fidel Castro had beards, wild, scraggly beards. Don't you think that if Oswald was a fan of Che Guevara, or, you know, the Cuban Revolution, that he'd be growing a beard, like a beatnik or something like that? But he doesn't. He maintains his military presence, being clean-shaved, well-dressed, clean clothes, hair kept right and short, just like he did in the Marines. Oswald still sees himself as a soldier, okay? Even though he's in America, he's still fighting a fight. He's still a soldier for the United States government. Whether it's the Marines or now he's fighting communists, he's fighting the internal threat of communism. Oswald was a government informant by all indications to me. Okay? It's another indication in his finances. A person making, you know, $1.25 an hour doesn't have $170 to leave with his wife so she can buy clothes and groceries. That's almost his entire month at the Texas School Book Depository. A person making $1.25 an hour at the Riley Coffee Company and then just got fired doesn't have the money to go hire people to pass out flyers being unemployed. Okay? Oswald was getting a paycheck from the government as a government informer, and it's pretty obvious. Okay? Whether it's naval intelligence, whether it's Defense Intelligence, whether it's CIA or FBI, one of those groups was working with Oswald. I mean, is it not mysterious that Oswald was working at Riley Coffee Company 1 block from Lafayette Square, and surrounding Lafayette Square was the FBI headquarters in New Orleans, the CIA headquarters in New Orleans, the Defense Intelligence headquarters in New Orleans, the Secret Service headquarters in New Orleans, the Postal Inspector headquarters in New Orleans. And if you don't think the Post Office was involved in anti-communist investigations, then you don't know the Postal Service. All mail coming from outside the United States was opened by the Postal Service and the FBI. Okay? Especially those from Eastern Bloc countries. This is why the Soviets, if they wanted to get information to someone in the U.S., they would mail it from one of their embassies in a Western country like Germany or Sweden or Austria. They would mail a letter to that person, and it would be coded. You're not going to mail it from the Soviet Union. It's going to be a big red flag there. Anyway, so that's my contention, is that Oswald, like Garrison said, was some kind of government employee. Okay? Maybe he was trying to infiltrate the right-wing groups, for the Department of Justice. And then when they found out about it, they turned it on Oswald and set him up. That's why you see Oswald, you have been charged. Then that shock goes over his face. He realizes, oh shit, they turned it all. They knew it. They turned it all on me. Because what does Oswald try to do in New Orleans? He tries to infiltrate the right-wing group, Briguier. Although I'm pretty sure that he and Briguier already knew each other, because Briguier had rented an office in the same fucking building that Oswald and Bannister had an office a year or two before, right there by the Riley Coffee Company on Lafayette Street. So it was all a stage act, okay, to get Oswald onto TV. Why would you want to get Oswald into TV and the radio? Well, the TV and the radio was owned by a right-wing guy who ran around the same circles as Shaw and around the same circles as Bannister and Ferry. They were all connected, okay? So you want to get him on the public record as being arrested for passing out flyers for Cuba. So he's a communist sympathizer. You get him on the radio and interview him. You get him on TV and interview him. You got a face. And this is going to get people to come to Oswald, okay? It's going to get people that are interested in that to try to contact Oswald, okay? And then that's going to expose them. And then from there, they're going to find other people and other connections. What they're trying to do is get people that are connected to communism or Marxist ideals and find out where they're getting their information from. And then the whole idea is that there's some kind of Cuban-Russian infiltration into the United States that's staging these groups. And that's what Oswald's doing. Oswald was a soldier in the Marines, recruited by the defense establishment, trained, to go to the Soviet Union and provide false information as a false defector to the Russians. 90% fact, 10% false. Okay? This is why the Russians, they knew better. They knew they had experience with other false defectors, and this is why they didn't try to recruit him. This is why they set him up and really, really nice so he'd report back that, hey, yeah, they got it pretty good here. Why would you do that for some loser? Because the Russians knew the game. They knew he was in contact with the U.S. Embassy or the U.S. intelligence services in Russia. So they're sending him, setting him up in a nice big apartment that no Russian would ever get. Give him a nice job at a radio factory that most Russians wouldn't be able to get. They knew the Americans were playing a game with them through Oswald, and so they were playing a game back through Oswald to them. And then again, you got to think about, how does Oswald get back to the United States? He's already a defector. He's already said he was going to give all his military secrets. I mean, Oswald knows that the front lobby of the U.S. Embassy is bugged and recorded. by the U.S. and probably the Soviets. Okay, so what does he do? He walks right into there and slams his passport down. Says he announces out loud to the clerk that he wants to defect and going to give the Russians all his secrets. I was a former Marine. I'll give them all my radar secrets that I know. Okay, that's all for show, because the Soviets had told him to leave the country, and so he goes to the U.S. Embassy to do that. That's to show them, because he knows they're listening. We know they're listening. For them to hear that and say, oh, well, maybe he is a real defector. Okay? We're not talking about some stupid little kid from Texas and New Orleans that didn't know what he was doing. He was trained by the military as a false defector to get into the Soviet Union. Okay? And then, his wife had 2 prior relationships with 2 other defectors, American defectors. That tells you right there that she was sent by Russian intelligence to find out and report back what he was up to. It doesn't take much. She doesn't have to go through the Russian intelligence school. She's just given a little extra money. Her mom and dad are giving, her uncle is giving a little extra money. Her uncle was a colonel in the GRU. So she's not some innocent Russian schoolgirl going to pharmacy school, okay? But anyway, I've over-talked this a little bit too much, but my contention that Oswald was some kind of low-level paid informant. Okay, you're not going to get rich doing that. You went to the Soviet Union. Maybe they gave him some kind of bonus money. They made some kind of arrangement for him. Okay. I mean, think about it. You defected to the Soviet Union. You come back to a very, very ultra-conservative right-wing city, Dallas, and you get a job with a defense contractor, Jaeger Child Stovall, that's doing photo analysis with the Defense Department. How is that possible? And then when you're in New Orleans, you go work with Riley Coffee Company. The Riley Coffee Company was known for its CIA connections in South America, and helping them stage coups, and using their property to stage coups in Guatemala and Honduras. So there's all these periphery connections to the government, the CIA, the FBI. All the employees that were working with Oswald at the Riley Coffee Company went and worked with either Boeing, a defense contractor, or NASA. Right after Oswald left. Isn't that amazing? Oswald's working right in the heart of, the government intelligence community, right there, blocks away. But no one spots this communist. No one comes out and says, hey, this communist has been running around the intelligence community in New Orleans. Maybe we should check him out. And they all knew about him. I mean, because the FBI was interviewing him, and then I'll show you FBI memos that show them going to the Riley Coffee Company and the post office before the assassination. Okay, we're talking September. Before he even goes to Mexico City, the FBI is investigating Oswald. That tells you one thing, that he's probably not an FBI informant. He's probably working for either naval intelligence or defense intelligence of some kind. But they don't always communicate and tell each other what's what, because you don't know who in the government might be informing the Russians. So you're going to keep that locked down. Okay? And then getting back to Dallas, like I said, he's the luckiest son of a bitch communist in the whole world. He just happens to get a job a month and a half before, at the building where the president's going to be shooting. He just happens to be working on the same floor that the shooter's going to be shooting from. Okay? How lucky can you get, this communist revolutionary, working in a building that's owned by D.H. Byrd, who's just also in that same group of right-wing neoconservatives like Byrd and Hunt and all these other guys in Dallas. It's like he's hand-carried from one right-wing group working with the government and the intelligence community to another right-wing group working with the government and intelligence community. He's one lucky son of a bitch. Or Oswald is the smartest, most brilliant revolutionary ever. Anyway. Alright. I talked over too long, but there's Wesley Frazier. That's his testimony. You can see the difference. He's much more sure. It's more yes and no. You know, yes, yes, no, no. It's not, well, I didn't pay too much attention, because, you know, Wesley doesn't know it. When Wesley's testifying to the Warren Commission, he's already been confronted by the police and, you know, harassed and threatened that if he didn't sign this confession saying that he was, you know, a conspirator, that, you know, he could go to jail and all these kinds of things. Doesn't tell him. All he knows is they're gonna charge him as a conspirator because he brought the assassin to the school book depository with the rifle and didn't say anything to anyone. So he already knew that. That's why he's like, well, I didn't pay much attention. I didn't see much. I wasn't really looking. But now it's more yes, no, yes, no. How many people's memory gets better after 5 years? And they become more exact. You'd think it'd be the flip. Well, that was 5 years ago, and I'm not really sure because I wasn't paying much attention, but I'd say that paper package was this. Anyway. Alright. That's enough of that, and we'll pick it up again tomorrow.